You are in debt right now. Maybe you know the number exactly. Maybe you stopped looking. But here is what nobody ever told you about that debt. It was not an accident. It was not bad luck. It was not a failure of discipline or intelligence or willpower. It was design, a system built by people who understood human behavior better than most humans ever will, designed specifically, to keep you exactly where you are. And today, we are going to dismantle it, not with anger, with understanding. Because understanding, B, is the only thing that actually sets you free. This is the bigger picture. Let me ask you something that most people never think to ask. When did you first go into debt? Not the exact date, not the specific number, but the feeling. The first time you signed something, or agreed to something, accepted something. That meant you owed money to someone you had never met, for something you wanted or needed, right now. For most people, that moment happened before they were old enough to fully understand what they were agreeing to. A student loan at 18, a car payment at 22, a credit card at 25 that felt like freedom, until it didn't. And nobody, in any of those moments, sat down with you and explained what was actually happening. Not the interest rate in isolation, not the monthly payment in isolation, the full picture. What that debt would actually cost over its full term. How it would shape your decisions for years afterward. How it would quietly limit your options, your freedom, your ability to say no to things that drain you and yes to things that matter. Nobody explained that. Because explaining it was not in anyone's financial interest, except yours. Here is the first thing nobody tells you about debt. Debt is not a number. Debt is a claim on your future. Every dollar you owe is a dollar that your future self has already promised to someone else. A dollar that cannot be invested, cannot be saved, cannot be used to build the gap between what you earn and what you need, the gap that represents your actual freedom. And when you see debt that way, not as a balance on a statement, but as a claim on your future, everything changes. The car payment that felt manageable at $700 a month is not $700. It is $700 every month for 60 months, plus interest. At a time in your life when that money could have been building something real. The credit card balance that carries a 22% interest rate is not the balance. It is the balance growing every single day, faster than almost any investment you could make will ever grow. And the student loan that felt like an investment in your future may have been exactly that. Or it may have been the first link in a chain, that has been quietly limiting your options ever since. Debt was normalized before you were old enough to question it. Your parents had it. Their parents had it. The culture you grew up in treated it as simply the way things work. You buy a house with a mortgage. You buy a car with a loan. You go to university with debt. You furnish your life with credit. Each step individually reasonable. Each step collectively building a financial architecture, that requires your current income to function, that has no margin, that has no gap, that has very few options. And that was not an accident. It was the intended outcome of a system designed to keep money moving from your future to someone else's present. Understanding this does not mean never borrowing again. It means borrowing when you do, with complete awareness of what you are actually agreeing to. Not just the monthly payment, the full claim on your future, and asking every single time, is this claim worth what I am giving up to service it? That question changes everything. But debt, as we are about to discover, goes even deeper than the numbers. There is a layer underneath the balance, underneath the interest rate, underneath the monthly payment that most people never see until we name it. There is a specific kind of debt that almost nobody talks about, not because it is rare, because it is everywhere, and because the people who profit from it have spent decades making it feel not just normal, but desirable. It is called revolving debt, and it is, by design, the most profitable financial product ever created. Here is how it works. You are given a limit, a number that represents how much you can spend right now and pay back later. The limit feels like generosity, like the institution trusts you, like you have been given access to something valuable. What you have actually been given is a mechanism, a carefully engineered mechanism designed to keep a balance on your account, generating interest, every single day, for as long as possible. The minimum payment is the key to understanding this. When a credit card sets a minimum payment, it is not doing you a favor. It is not making your life easier out of kindness or consideration for your circumstances. It is setting the payment at exactly the level, Shinsi, that keeps you in debt for the maximum amount of time, while generating the maximum amount of interest. A balance of $5,000, ikaw at 22% interest, with minimum payments only, takes approximately 17 years to pay off. 17 years. And costs nearly $5,000 in interest alone. You pay for the original purchase twice, and the institution, the one that extended you the limit with a smile and a welcome letter, collects that second payment, quietly, automatically, every single month, for 17 years. This is not an edge case. This is the business model. The most profitable credit card customer, is not the one who pays in full every month. That customer costs the institution money, processing fees, rewards programs, customer service. The most profitable customer, Aichi, is the one who carries a balance, who makes the minimum payment faithfully, who never misses a payment, never defaults, never causes a problem, who simply consistently, reliably pays interest month after month, year after year, for as long as the balance exists, and the balance, structured correctly, can exist almost indefinitely because life keeps happening. The car needs a repair, the appliance breaks, the medical bill arrives, the holiday comes around again, and each time, the balance that was almost paid off grows again, and the clock resets. Now here is what makes this system genuinely extraordinary in its design. It does not feel like a trap, it feels like a solution. Every time the balance grows, it is because something real happened, something that needed to be handled, and the credit was there, available, immediate, solving the problem right now. The trap is not in any single moment. The trap is in the structure, in the fact that a life with no emergency fund, no gap between income and expenses, no financial margin of any kind, will always have emergencies. And emergencies, without margin, can always go on the card. And the card, structured to maximize interest, was waiting for exactly that moment. This is why getting out of revolving debt, is not primarily a math problem. It is a structural problem. The math is simple: pay more than the minimum, pay the highest interest rate first, be consistent. But the structure that created the debt, the absence of margin, the absence of an emergency fund, the absence of a gap between what you earn and what you need, if that structure does not change, the debt will return, because the circumstances that created it have not changed. And in the next part of this conversation, we are going to talk about how to change the structure, not just the balance, the foundation underneath it. Because the foundation is where everything either holds or quietly falls apart. Let's talk about the structural change, because this is where most financial advice fails people. It focuses on the debt, the balance, the interest rate, the payoff timeline, the snowball method versus the avalanche method, the numbers, and the numbers matter. They do. But beneath the numbers, beneath the balance and the rate and the timeline, is something that the numbers alone will never fix. The reason the debt exists, not the surface reason, not the car repair or the medical bill or the holiday or the moment the balance grew again. The deeper reason, the structural absence that made debt the only available solution every single time something unexpected happened. That absence has a name: margin. Financial margin is the gap between what you earn and what you need to function, not what you want, not what you spend, what you actually need to keep your life running at its current level. Most people, if they are honest, have almost no margin. Their income and their expenses are separated by a distance so small that any unexpected cost, any disruption, any month that goes slightly differently than planned, eliminates it entirely. And when margin disappears, debt fills the space every time, without exception. This is why the first structural change, the one that makes every other financial move possible, is not paying off the debt. It is building a small emergency fund first. This sounds counterintuitive. If you have high-interest debt, shouldn't every available dollar go toward paying it off? Mathematically, yes. Structurally, no. Because without an emergency fund, every unexpected expense goes back on the card, and the progress you made, the balance you reduced, disappears. The research on this is consistent. People who build a small emergency fund before aggressively paying down debt are significantly more likely to become debt-free than those who put every dollar toward the balance first. Not because the math is better, because the structure is better. The emergency fund creates margin, and margin, even a small amount, changes the relationship between unexpected events and debt. The second structural change, is understanding the difference between the debt you have and the income you need. Most people approach debt from one direction only: reduce expenses, cut spending, find money in the budget to put toward the balance, and expense reduction matters. But there is a ceiling to how much you can cut. There is no ceiling to how much you can earn. And the person who approaches debt with both levers, reducing expenses and growing income, moves at a fundamentally different speed than the person pulling only one. A side income of $500 a month, she, applied entirely to debt, changes a 17-year payoff timeline dramatically. Not because $500 is a life-changing amount, but because it is $500 that did not exist before, applied with complete intention to a specific structural problem. The third structural change is the most important and the least discussed. It is changing the identity. Most people who carry debt for years carry something else alongside it. A quiet belief that this is simply how their financial life works, that debt is normal, expected, inevitable for someone in their circumstances. That belief, more than any interest rate, more than any balance, is the most expensive thing they own. Because it shapes every decision before the decision is made. It determines which options feel available, which futures feel possible, which version of financial life feels like it could belong to them. And changing that belief, genuinely changing it, not just intellectually but in the way it shapes daily decisions, is the structural change that makes all other structural changes sustainable. You are not someone who carries debt. You are someone who is currently resolving a structural problem with complete awareness of how it was created and complete intention about where you are going. That shift, small as it sounds, changes everything about the speed at which you get there. And yet, even with the right structure in place, there is one more force working against you, one that nobody in the financial industry will ever warn you about, because naming it would cost them too much. Let me tell you something that most financial advisors will never say out loud. The system that created your debt, RCSTE, was not built to help you escape it. It was built to make escape feel difficult, not impossible, just difficult enough that most people give up before they get there. Think about how debt products are structured. The credit limit that increases automatically, without you asking, the moment you demonstrate you can handle the current one. The balance transfer offer that arrives at exactly the moment your existing balance feels unmanageable. The refinancing option that lowers your monthly payment, while extending your timeline and increasing your total cost. Each of these, presented as a solution. Each of these, quietly, keeping you inside the system. Not through deception, through design. The design understands something about human behavior that most people never consciously examine. We optimize for the immediate. The lower monthly payment feels like relief. The higher credit limit feels like security. The balance transfer feels like progress. And in the moment, each of them is. But the moment is not the full picture. The full picture, measured over years, over the full arc of what these decisions actually cost, looks completely different. A lower monthly payment on a refinanced loan, spread over a longer term, can cost thousands more than the original loan. A higher credit limit, available and accessible, statistically increases total debt, not just for irresponsible spenders, but for careful, financially aware people, simply because the option exists. A balance transfer with a promotional rate carries fees and a rate that resets, and a psychology that says the problem has been handled when all that has actually happened is that the clock was reset. This is not about blaming yourself for decisions that felt reasonable in the moment. They were reasonable in the moment. That is precisely how the system works. It presents options that are reasonable in the moment, and costly over time. And it relies on the fact that the moment is where most human decisions are actually made. Your job, Ori, from this point forward, is to make fewer decisions in the moment and more decisions in advance, with full awareness of the full picture, not just the monthly payment, the total cost, not just the immediate relief, the long-term structure, not just what this solves today, what it creates tomorrow. That shift from moment-based decisions to structure-based decisions is the single most powerful change available to anyone navigating debt. And it starts, not with a spreadsheet, but with the decision to see the full picture every single time. There is a force that keeps people in debt that has nothing to do with interest rates, nothing to do with income, nothing to do with discipline or willpower or the size of the balance. It is called social debt. And it is, in many ways, more powerful than the financial kind. Here is what I mean. We live in a culture that performs wealth, not builds it, performs it. The car that signals success, the neighborhood that signals arrival, the holiday that signals freedom, the upgrade that signals progress. And most of these signals, are financed, not owned. The car in the driveway with 3 years left on the loan, the holiday on the credit card that will take 8 months to pay off, the renovation that added to the mortgage and added to the image, and added to the quiet weight of money already owed. We borrow, in large part, to maintain a story about who we are, where we have arrived, what kind of life we are living. And that story, told in purchases and upgrades and the visible markers of a life moving forward, is extraordinarily expensive to maintain. Research by sociologists at the University of Chicago found that consumer debt, and particularly among middle-income households, is significantly driven by social comparison. The desire to match, or exceed, as the visible consumption of peers and neighbors. Not because people are shallow or irresponsible, but because the human brain is wired for social calibration. We measure ourselves against the people around us. We feel the discomfort of falling behind, and we resolve that discomfort in the fastest way available, the credit card, the loan, the upgrade that felt earned, because everyone around us seemed to be upgrading too. This is not weakness, it is biology interacting with a consumer culture specifically designed to exploit it, and understanding it is the first step to operating outside it. Because here is what the research also shows. The people who build genuine financial freedom, almost universally, at some point, stop performing wealth. Not because they become indifferent to how they live, but because they shift the audience. They stop measuring themselves against the visible consumption of people around them and start measuring themselves against their own definition of enough, against the gap between where they are and the life they are actually building toward. That shift, from external comparison to internal clarity, removes the single most powerful driver of unnecessary debt, The need to perform a version of success that was never truly yours. And here is what becomes possible when that shift happens. Every financial decision gets simpler, not easier necessarily, but simpler. Because the question changes. It stops being, what will this say about me? And becomes, does this move me closer to or further from the life I am actually building? That question, applied consistently, is worth more than any debt payoff strategy ever written, because it addresses the source, not the symptom, and the source, the quiet social pressure to perform a life rather than live one, is where most debt is actually created. Long before the credit card is swiped, long before the loan is signed. In the moment when the story we are telling about ourselves requires a purchase we cannot truly afford to remain believable, see that moment clearly, and the debt, gradually, inevitably, loses its power. But there is still one more thing that nobody talks about. Something that happens after the debt is gone, something that surprises almost everyone who gets there, and changes everything about why becoming debt-free is worth every difficult month it requires. Let's talk about what happens after. Because most financial content stops at the payoff. The balance hits zero, the confetti falls, the journey is complete, and nobody talks about what comes next. What it actually feels like to live on the other side. Because the other side is not what most people expect. They expected freedom to feel loud, dramatic, obvious, the way a finish line feels in a race you have been running for years. What most people actually experience is something quieter than that and more profound. There is a specific feeling that people describe when they make the final payment. When the balance hits zero for the first time in years, it is almost never euphoria. What most of them actually feel is quiet. A deep, steady, almost unfamiliar quiet. Not the absence of feeling, the presence of space, space that the debt had been occupying, quietly, for years. Not just in their bank account, in their mind. In the low-level hum of financial anxiety that had become so familiar, they had stopped noticing it was there, until it wasn't. And in that quiet, something becomes possible that was not possible before. Not the purchase they had been postponing, not the vacation or the upgrade or the reward they had promised themselves. Something simpler and more valuable. A decision made entirely on its own terms. Not shaped by what the balance allows. Not limited by what the minimum payment requires. Not filtered through the quiet weight of money already owed. Just a decision. Free. That quality of decision, that specific experience of choosing without the weight of debt shaping the choice, is what financial freedom actually feels like. Not a number, not a net worth, not a portfolio balance or a property value or any external measure of accumulated wealth. A decision made freely in an ordinary moment, on an ordinary day. That is the destination, and it is closer than it feels. Not because the path is short, but because every structural decision you make today shortens it. The emergency fund that creates margin, the automated payment that removes the decision from daily willpower, the shift from performing wealth to building it, the identity change from someone who carries debt to someone who is resolving a structural problem with complete intention. Each of these moves, small as they feel in isolation, compounds. The same way debt compounds against you, structure compounds for you, quietly, consistently. In the background of every month that passes, building something real, building margin, building options, building the gap between what you earn and what you need, until one day that gap is wide enough to contain genuine freedom. That is what nobody tells you about debt, not just how to pay it off, but what becomes possible when you do. The life on the other side is not just a life without payments, it is a life with options, with margin, with the quiet confidence of someone who understood the system, built the structure, and arrived somewhere real. That life is closer than it feels right now, And it starts with a decision you can make today. If you are still here, I want to stop for just a moment, because something is worth acknowledging. You just spent a significant amount of time, on a conversation that most people avoid entirely. Not because they don't care about their financial future, because debt, for most people, carries something heavier than a balance. It carries shame. The quiet, yet persistent belief that carrying debt is a personal failure, a reflection of poor choices or weak discipline or something fundamentally wrong with how they manage their lives. And that shame, more than any interest rate, keeps people from looking directly at the problem. Because looking directly at something that feels like failure is one of the hardest things a person can do. You did it anyway. You stayed through a conversation that named the system, described the trap, and asked you to see your own financial life with complete honesty. That takes something, and it matters more than you know. So if this conversation has shifted something, if something here has landed differently than most financial content you have encountered, I want to invite you to stay close to this channel. Subscribe, not for tips, not for shortcuts, not for the particular comfort of someone telling you everything will be fine without asking you to change anything, for the bigger picture, the kind of clarity that builds slowly through honest conversations that are willing to go somewhere most content won't. Subscribe, so the next part of this picture reaches you when it is ready, and share this with one person in your life who is carrying a balance they have stopped looking at, who believes, quietly, that debt is simply how their financial life works, who deserves to see the system they are living inside as clearly as you now see it. This conversation might be exactly what changes that belief. And now, let's finish what we started, because everything we have discussed, the claim on your future, the revolving trap, the structural absence that debt fills, the social pressure to perform a life rather than build one, the quiet that arrives when the balance finally hits zero, all of it points toward a single truth. Debt is not a personal failure, it is a structural problem, created by a system designed to produce it, maintained by a culture designed to normalize it, and solved not by willpower or shame or the dramatic overhaul that feels motivating for 2 weeks, but by structure, by the quiet, consistent, unglamorous work of building a foundation that makes debt unnecessary. One decision at a time, one structural change at a time, 1 month at a time, until the balance is gone, and the quiet arrives, and the decision, finally, is free. I want to end with something true, not inspiring, not motivational, not the kind of conclusion that produces a feeling in the moment, and evaporates by morning. Something true. Debt is one of the most normalized experiences in modern financial life, and yet, it is one of the least understood. Most people know they have it. Most people know roughly what it costs them monthly. Very few people have ever sat down and looked at the full picture, the total cost over the full term, the options it has quietly eliminated, the decisions it has shaped before they were ever consciously made, the story it has allowed them to perform, at a price they never fully calculated. You have now done that, not perfectly, not with a spreadsheet and a 30-year projection, but honestly, with the kind of clarity that changes not just what you know, but how you see, and how you see is everything. Because the person who sees debt as a personal failure carries it differently than the person who sees it as a structural problem. The first person feels shame, avoids looking, makes decisions in the fog of that avoidance. The second person feels clarity, looks directly, makes decisions with the precision of someone who understands exactly what they are solving. You are the second person now. Not because the balance changed, because the understanding did. An understanding, applied consistently, over time, changes the balance. Not overnight, not without difficulty. Not without the months that go wrong and the unexpected expenses and the moments where the progress feels fragile, but consistently, inevitably, in the direction of freedom. Here is what I want you to take from this conversation. Not a plan, not a list of steps. Three things. The first, debt is a claim on your future. Every dollar you owe is a dollar your future self has already committed. See it that way, always. The second, the solution is structural, not motivational. Build the margin first, automate the payment, change one pattern at a time. The foundation matters more than the balance. The third, the life on the other side is real, not a fantasy, not reserved for people with better circumstances or higher incomes or more favorable starting points. Real, and closer than it feels. Those three things, held clearly, applied consistently, are worth more than any financial strategy you will ever read because they address the source, not the symptom. And the source, seen clearly, it loses most of its power. That clarity is yours now. Use it. If this conversation has been worth your time, share it with 5 people who are carrying a balance they have stopped looking at, who deserve to see the system as clearly as you now see it. Leave a comment below. Tell me what you want to understand next. What part of your financial life still feels like a locked room? What question you have been carrying without knowing where to take it? Ask it here. Because the next conversation starts with what you need most. This is the bigger picture. Money, wealth, and the life you're building. We'll see you in the next one.